become stronger and believe in themselves so that others can follow them and have faith in themselves too. A leader is also one who can lead through all situations, Like whatever comes their way, whatever personal problems, whatever general problems, they should be able to look back and tell those that are following them that, it's okay, come on, we can work towards this, we can work through it. And that is something that the Rani has always done, because she's never shown any kind of weakness or incompetence in front of her people. And even when the time of her annexation of Jhansi came to her, she was quiet and she was very stoic, and she said, "मैं अपनी झांसी नहीं दूँगी." She did not, scream, cry, get frustrated, or like drag her sword and start fighting then and there. But she was calm and she made she was the face of, as a leader, she used to be the face of her people, and she was the perfect example. Thank you.
Yeah, this theory that she didn't weep, she didn't cry, she said, this was the television scene, right?
It was a book that I had.
Okay, now what is Jhansi ki Rani? Let's take this again. Apart from being a conqueror, a warrior who wanted to save her kingdom, who fought a war, she was a lady gentleman. Apart from this one, you are saying
she was a radical thinker.
She did not give up on her failures. Khilji did do it 16 times he came. That's better.
No, but as in so. What's the question?
She's not the best example of a warrior who
she's a wholesome example, because apart from standing up for who she is
anywhere else, I will go ahead.
She was a radical thinker. She was perfect example for emancipation of women. She inducted troopers and gunners, women troopers.
She was not before gender bias.
No,
reverse gender bias.
That doesn't happen now. The army still doesn't have women gunners and troopers. So that's.
Thank you. Yes.
Today I would like to talk about Shivaji. He's the ideal leader. He was one of the modern leaders in the olden times. He had inspired his people when no one had actually done. When his father was actually the governor for the Maharashtra state, in the present Maharashtra state, for the Bijapur Empire, and actually his father very much wanted to liberate the present Maharashtra state, the Rashtra they had said. So Shivaji always, as a small child, he was very inspired by his father and always used to enact wars. So, and when he had become a good age of 15, he had actually taken a small band of warriors and he had actually fought his first war. And even though he had lost it, he had got lots of experience, and people are still inspired by him, people still respect him. If you go to Mumbai today, everything is Shivaji. Shivaji's people were so loyal to him that when Shivaji had done the greatest conquest of conquering a single fort, even though they had got so much amount of wealth, not even a single person in his troop had dropped the money. They had not even taken a single penny. That was the loyalty people had given him, and he too was the same amount of loyalty he had given to his people. Even he cared for his mother. In fact, he actually made his mother the general, so that he would never go astray of the original objective he had in mind, which was to liberate his Rashtra. Thank you.
Comment on this theory that Shivaji is the earliest example of Oedipus.
Earliest model.
Of Oedipus.
Sir?
He was the earliest example of the Oedipus complex.
No, sir.
What was the name of Shivaji's mother?
Jijabai.
Who was his inspiration, mother or father?
Both of them were inspiration. His mother had always supported his inspiration, whereas his father had always funded him so that he could actually, because all of them had shared the same belief.
And his soul still haunts Mumbaikars.
Yes, everyone still respects that. Yeah, even today, actually, if you have anytime read the state
Mumbaikars and all
Shivaji Terminus, Chhatrapati Shivaji, and if you have actually read the SSC syllabus for them, they still have.
He reminded of the king of today. I think Lord Ashoka built three, Shivaji did warfare. Thank you. Anirudh.
Good afternoon once again. At the age of 4, when I took his idol into my hands, I felt a power which I received, but I couldn't understand what was that. Now, at this point of time, I can understand the power. The idol was that of Siddhartha, who we know as Gautam Buddha. Gautam Buddha, like Swami Vivekananda, introspected himself about the problems in the world. He was born a normal man, and he has emerged as now we call God. He established a religion called Buddhism. He created he had many disciples who followed him, and they spread his religion throughout the world. Now Buddhism, which is one of the most widespread religions in the world, has
How religious are you? How religious are you?
Me, I don't follow a particular religion, but I follow all the religions.
Being religious, will it help to be a good leader?
Yeah, being religious in the sense following the culture of the religion and the correct guidelines laid by the religion will help us to be a good leader. No religion tells us to harm someone or not to respect the other people from different religions. So it does help us to be a good leader.
But your this leader who started Buddhism, one of the biggest failure religions in the world. It's never been practiced seriously across the world at any point in time. Religions older than it have survived, religions after it are more popular. What kind of religion?
To understand Buddhism, it's
No, I don't know about understanding any religion. Talking about success rate of the religion. He is its biggest salesman. Sales are very poor. What do we do?
How will you get inspired by his leadership?
That's all.
And how will you be successful?
usually it depends on the interest of a particular person.
Got you. Pratik.
Is being led. India is being led since 1700 BC, and till today it has witnessed few of the finest leaders of the globe. One such amazing leader was Raja Ram Mohan Roy, also known as the father and the maker of modern India. He challenged the traditional Hindu culture and he carved the lines of progress for the Indian society. It is only education that will take a country forward on the path of progress, and even Swami Vivekananda realized this during his travels. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was a strong believer of the power of education, and he set up many schools and colleges during his lifetime. He put forward the idea that New India should acquire and treasure what is best out of East and West. He wanted India to learn from the West, and this learning was to be an intellectual and creative process. It could not be an imposition of Western culture on ours. He was a person with a very rational and scientific approach. Ram Mohan Roy believed in the principle of human dignity and social equality. The founder of the phenomenal Brahmo Samaj, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, led many religious and social reforms during his lifetime, where he preached the concept of one God. His idea of religion was an assimilation of Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, and as well as the European modern philosophy. He campaigned to persuade the government to abolish sati system, which was one of the biggest social evils of that time. He was known as the champion of women's rights. Back then, he had the thought of internationalism and global cooperation, which we today discuss in the form of FDI and globalization. What a vision the person had. He could see India as a superpower, global superpower to reckon with in the future. He was a leader full of enthusiasm for improvements in fields of education, political and religion, and he had inexhaustible energy for his multifarious activities. His heart and mind were always saturated with love of freedom, and he hated any kind of barriers between humans. He was not just a utopian dreamer, but he believed in the execution of his ideas. And he was the person who could challenge the challenges of our era. And that is what leadership is all about. Thank you.
If you imagine or visualize yourself to be Raja Rammohn right now, what issue would you take?
Being Raja Rammohn Roy, I think I would not have to look into the social reforms that he had gone through, but there are many more things in our country which we have to work upon.
You would have supported Manmohan Singh on the FDI issue.
Definitely looking at the positive side of FDI, yeah, I would.
Thanks. Varsha.
Be the change that you want to see in the world. I'm going to speak on about a leader, a freedom fighter, moreover a revolutionary, Mahatma Gandhi. He didn't just teach us about living on two poles of life, truth and non-violence. He taught us many more things in life. He always said, as he said, you must not lose faith in humanity. It is an ocean. A few drops may be bad, but the whole ocean is not bad. You have a lot to take from the world. Every evil can be won with the help of love. He used to say that where there is love, there is life. In today's world, eye upon an eye is very common, but an eye upon an eye just ends up to nothing. Today, countries have the best army, best naval power, everything, but the lack of peace, the love that is required in people is missing. This is what takes me to choose Mahatma Gandhi, since he places peace, truthfulness, honesty in a person, and all this can take a country forward. As we, the young leaders, need to imbibe all these qualities into ourselves as well as motivate others to take the country forward. Thank you.
I have a problem with Gandhi. Such a great leader, nobody can follow. Show me one Gandhian after Gandhi at that level.
So nobody, to full extent.
He was
To
so
full extent.
perfect that people said we can't even try being him.
Sir, 5% of Gandhi is possible even in today's world.
That's
So
why-
you might be, sir.
that is
You,
why- that
do
is
you
why-
speak lies?
We'll come there later. We'll do the process I will meet. 1948, 1949, today's India. What more examples do you want of Gandhi there, of Gandhi crime, of Gandhi abused?
Yes, sir. Gandhi is abused a lot because nobody knows people know about him, but they ignore the positive side of Gandhi. Gandhiji had a very big positive side. We can learn a lot from him if he's, given that it's all upon your own.
That's the question. A great leader is one from whom we can learn, or a great leader is one from whom we do learn. Okay, Namita.
This was said by Gautam Buddha. However many holy words you read, however many you speak, what good will it do if you don't work upon them? This is one of my favorite quotes because I believe that the world is governed by doers. Not just thinkers, not just believers, but doers. Now, Siddhartha, as he was earlier known, was a child who was protected by his family, and he was not let out of the palace for years. And one day when he did go out, we've all heard the story where he saw the four sights that changed his life forever. The sight of a crippled old man, the sight of a corpse, the sight of a diseased man, and the sight of a monk. The first three sights devastated him. Here I saw, in a seemingly unrelated incident, I saw a small similarity between him and Swami Vivekananda because I consider him to be another leader, a very respectable leader. Both of them were moved by even the slightest show of misery or sadness. And this solemnness and calmness in the face of the monk moved him even more and made him leave his worldly possessions, the power that he had as a prince, and even his own wife and child to lead a saintly life. And we all know what happened next. He gained enlightenment. And if in today's world someone supposedly gains enlightenment, well, I would expect a guy or a girl to go on and on and on about his achievement. But here is a man who was so humble that instead of praising himself, he went far and wide to spread the knowledge that he had earned. And most of all, what I feel was best about him is that he did not ask people to follow him or even listen to him, but they did. And that is what proves how great a leader he was. Thank you.
He did abandon his family to seek enlightenment. So is that also inspirational for a leader?
Ma'am, Siddhartha left his family not as an act of not shouldering his responsibility, but as an act of shouldering a bigger responsibility towards the world. That is what.
And Vivekananda was called a warrior monk. How do you compare Vivekananda with Siddhartha?
I am not comparing them, I am just saying that they have a similarity there. He was a great man, Swami Vivekananda was a great leader, he was a great man who taught us a lot. Similarly, Gautam Buddha was also a great man, a great leader in my opinion, and he taught us a lot. That is why I said that there is a similarity, I'm not comparing them.
Who are you inspired in both of them?
In both of them? Both of them inspire me in different ways. Gautam Buddha's principles about simple life, inner peace inspire me, whereas Swami Vivekananda's vision for a better country, a better India inspires me.
Thank you for choosing Buddha. And the question is, do you think that in India, the perfect example of a leader is a spiritual person rather than a king? Many people spoke about kings. Do you think, I'm looking at the future.
A leader is present in everyone. So you just have to dig the leader out. It can be a spiritual person, it can be a king, it can be anyone who's not selfish, who looks to the betterment of the whole world, of the society, before himself.
In the next 20 years,
who is more important? That's what she does.
Pardon?
In the Indian context, who's better?
What's
the need of the hour?
in the next 20 years, you want a Shivaji or a Buddha?
I would want a Buddha, peace.
No baat.
Thank
And only one comment, no question. It's not solemnness, solemnity. Sorry, so sorry.
Thank you.
Pranita.
In the history of the world, there have been many kings and emperors who have called themselves their majesties, their highnesses. They shone temporarily and as quickly disappeared, but Ashoka shines on, bright like a star, even unto today. I talk about Ashoka like two other people here because I feel he had the ability to learn from his mistakes. He was regarded as a frightful warrior who was adventurous in his youth. But after the Kalingan conquest, he radically changed himself because there was something about that bloody battlefield strewn with the corpses of so many people, husbands, fathers, brothers and children, that moved him so much that he lamented saying, "What have I done? If this is victory, what is defeat?" And after this, he accepted Buddhism, he embraced it, and he actually propagated it to different parts of the country, and even sent his brother, and I think to Ceylon, to propagate Buddhism. And now it is quite a popular religion in Sri Lanka. And the one thing about Ashoka that inspired me most is the way that he accepted non-violence, peace, harmony. He thought of everyone as equal regardless of their caste, religion or sect. And he wanted people to love each other and know more about each other. He wanted people to accept each other, not blindly. He wanted people to know about different cultures and see why the similarities between their culture and the other people's culture, and then accept the others. And he also supported lots of things like modern technology. He stressed upon the power of education, and even animals were spared of the violence. Many of the harsh laws were reduced. And the one thing that made me as a person respect this legend as a true leader was that he would constantly get down to the level of people and talk to them about their problems. How many of our present leaders actually do that? Meet people and know what they really want. In the end, I would like to conclude with this very moving thought that I have always loved. It is not great to never fall, but great it is to fall, rise again, and persevere with all might. And I think Ashoka, in that case, has won his battle.
Yes.
Okay. According to Ashoka, peace, he given you how to do the peace rights. అశోకుడు మన శాంతి ఎట్లుండాలని చెప్పింది, యుద్ధాన్ని చేయొద్దని చెప్పింది.
I can understand Telugu.
No, let him say it in Telugu. He can't say it.
I can understand Telugu, so it's not.
Okay, యుద్ధం చేయొద్దని ఆయన చెప్పాడు. But in Mahabharata, Sri Krishna encouraged Arjuna to do what? Which one is better? Which one you agree? Either there is Ashoka agree or is agree.
See, a battle, when it's inevitable, it has to happen. When evil has to be overcome by something good, a radical change will come. And that came as a war during Mahabharata. You cannot expect a war right now because there are so many people at stake. At this current point of time, I would have harmony and peace rather than war.
Okay, at that time Ashoka కూడా మంచి కోసం యుద్ధం చేస్తున్నారు సార్.
He did it more for conquest than for peace and harmony. He did it for annexing territories.
The leader that I've chosen today is Bal Gangadhar Tilak, also known as Lokmanya Tilak. Now, Lokmanya Tilak was a teacher, a scholar, a journalist, a social reformer, but more than that, he was an Indian nationalist, he was a freedom fighter, he was a leader. I would like to narrate a small incident from his childhood. When he was small, in his class, there were some groundnut shells which were on the ground, and the teacher came in and he demanded who threw these on the ground. No one came forward. So as a punishment, he called each child and gave them 2 lashes on both their hands with a cane. When Bal Gangadhar Tilak came in front, he gave out his hands, but he said, "I have done nothing wrong. I have not thrown these shells, so I will not take the punishment." And the teacher was surprised with his straightfulness and his truthfulness. And later, it wasn't really his fault. And you can see that even at a small age, he was fighting against injustice. He was always for social reforms. He was against child marriage. He always encouraged marriages of widows. He wanted to spread awareness and education so that people would be empowered and think for themselves. He said that religion is not very different from practical life. To be a sannyas, you don't have to leave everything. And serving humans, serving mankind, is the step towards serving God. It was this dedication of his towards his fellow people that made him a leader. He used to write a publication called Kesari, in which he openly flouted the government left and right, saying articles that defied them. Why did he do that? He was thrown into jail many times for this. Why did he continue that? Because he had a fire inside him. He had a conviction, a belief that he had to do this not just for himself, but for his fellow Indians. And that is what makes him a true leader. Thank you.
We had more renouncing type of leaders like Gautam Buddha, Ashoka, Mahatma Gandhi, like non-violence. Which type of leaders do we need today, like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Shivaji, or the previous one?
I would say someone like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who had a very firm, let's say, a hold. Like, he was very clear on what he wanted to do. However, at the same time, not someone who shared his views on violence, because he was against Mahatma Gandhi's Ahimsa policy. So something like a combination of the two would be an ideal leader at today's day.
And Abhiraj, do you know that he was responsible for this Ganesh Vivarjan that we had?
Yes, I do.
Any take on that?
Not really. I guess at that time he thought it was right, it was required, maybe a drastic step was required at the time, that's why he did it.
Smart. Thanks, Siddharth.
Can we do something now?
Sorry?
Can we do something now to show people that yes, it was required then and it is not required now?
Not sure I got the question.
Ganesh.
Because at that time the situation was such that Ganesh, all these processions and all, it was required to gather public, to bring awareness in public that for freedom fighting. Now it is not no more required, I think.
The spreading of awareness is required. Maybe not through Ganesh, but you know there are other measures as well. You can watch TV, that's what we all do. So by that, or
can
by
we do something? I asked. Can we do something now?
To stop this
To stop this.
madness?
Aren't we already doing that? There are so many people out there who are fighting currently for this. We can also play our part. We can, obviously education awareness is the main concern, that so that people are aware of what is going on and they can take their steps to fight against it.
I hear you for a longer time, but she's nice. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
But he interested those small children of 13 to 15 years age. He saw the fire burning inside them, a burning heart, to free all those Chautagram people from that. The fate discontented them. There was a bolt that outclassed them in the plan. But what inspired me the most is his undying hope and a fight to the last breath. He gave this message to all those Chautagram revolutionaries who was following him. कि आज खेलेंगे जी जान से, चाहे वो ये खून की होली, चाहे निकाली हो एक आग की टोली, आज खेलेगा इस पूरा हिंदुस्तान हमारी साख से, आज खेलेंगे हम जी जान से. He didn't give up till the last moment when he was all exhausted and standing in the court. He was asked by the judges, do you agree the treachery and the treason that you have committed towards us? And he replies in back, with the children that I have trusted and with the people whom my hopes have carried, I ask you the same question. Are you responsible for this, for the miseries of the 1,000 people that you have caused? And if that is the case, then yes, I am responsible for that tragedy. Thank you very much.
से बोली तो हम खेलेंगे। कब तक ऐसे लोगों को हम जी जान से मर्यादा देंगे? कब तक हम उनको हीरो मानेंगे?
That was the case when we had no option. When the fate of speech took approximately 80 years to free this India. We had no option at that moment of time. When after this Mangal Pandey battle, there was this fire inside every Indian that now it is the time to do something.
खेलेंगे हम जी जान से,
Yes.
खून से।
Yes. वो वक्त था वो चीज को करने का, वो वक्त था उस खून की होली को खेलने का, वो वक्त था उस खून को बहाने का, जिससे वो आजादी
सही से लिखी। Thank you. राम।
Today we've been given the opportunity to talk about one leader of our preference. But before I get down to talking about the leader I've chosen, I'd like to take a few seconds to discuss leaders in general. Simply and crudely put, he's one who's followed by others. However, by convention, we have come to define a leader by his area of activity. Thus, most leaders do not exactly inspire everybody, only the individuals with an inclination towards this area of activity. And then is very rare is the leader, probably once in a century, like say a Mahatma, who influences a wide range of people irrespective of their personal inclinations. But however, imagine this, one personality who swept even the leaders on the level of these Mahatmas completely off their feet. He, in my conviction, is the leader of leaders. I have chosen to speak about Adi Shankaracharya. As we're all aware, Swami Vivekananda, who turned many a leaf in both the philosophical and political thought process of India, has always made very clear that he attributed all his teachings to the Vedas and the Upanishads. But in this regard, he has always hailed that one person who practically provided a transcript of the Vedas to the common man. In his lifespan of 32 years, Shankaracharya has propagated values not only regarding politics, religion and spirituality, but arguably regarding every walk of life. And I guarantee this is not an exaggeration. To impose this, he walked the length and breadth of India, creating leaders in every center he visited. And in the process of just doing what he did, he has influenced the rise of numerous leaders over the centuries. Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramana, Sri Aurobindo, Swami Chinmayananda, Shirdi Sai Baba, Swami Dayananda. The list just goes on and on. Thus, I'd like to close with a quote from Swami Vivekananda with reference to Krishna's promise in the Bhagavad Gita. He who declared, "I will come whenever virtue subsides," came again, and this time the manifestation was in the south, and the marvelous boy Shankaracharya arose. Thank you.
We not singularly bring down the value of the human being.
I'm sorry?
Govindam Bhajamuramati.
Actually, I had a paragraph purely about the Bhajagovindam, but then I had to strike it down because of the time limit. Bhajagovindam basically was written with the sole purpose of reaching out to the masses that weren't well versed in the scriptures. And he did so with in Sanskrit, but in a layman's language. And he talks about everything in there. In 31 verses, he encapsulates the philosophy of life.
Endaro Mahan Bhavu Andarki Namaskar. There are so many leaders in ancient India, in ancient history, about whom we can speak about, from whom we can learn. Given a chance to speak about 2 minutes, it was a very difficult task to choose. But yes, I read the question, I read the mail that I got again. Speak about the leadership lesson that you learned from a leader. I'm not speaking about the leader now.
I'm thinking about the leadership lesson that I learned from this leader. He's Mahatma Jyotirao Phule. And now, I'm not going to the history, but I'll be telling you three short stories, which taught me that practice what you preach. First thing, education for women is very important. Agreed. There were reformers, there were people protesting for this. Agreed. Yes. Starting from Indira Gandhi to today's Sunita Williams, everyone, yes, women is important and education is important. Way back in 19th century, Mahatma Jyotirao Phule spoke about this. And yes, he didn't just preach. He taught, he educated his wife first. It starts from the home. That's what I learned from him. Second thing, the widow remarriage. In those days, children were given to marriages right at the age of 13. The girls were married to old men. The girls of 13, 16 years, and they used to get widowed at a very young age. And then, of course, our society in those days, more than the pain that she lost her husband, the society's attitude towards her would be more painful. In that scenario, he raised an orphanage. He encouraged he encouraged this widow remarriage and bans child marriage. And yes, he adopted the first child in the orphanage. A widow gave birth to a child and he adopted that child. They didn't go for children, and the only son they had was an adopted child. And yes, in terms of service, in terms of what all the leaders today are going towards, in terms of what we're all talking about, yes, we all spoke, but we have to practice. And yes, I learned this lesson, and that changed my mindset of service, and that is all about it. Thank you.
No, sir. Where's the dog? When was he born?
I've checked, sir, it was 1858. 1858 was the time where he started his first school. Yes, sir. Wikipedia. I had to remember that. I'm sorry.
Good evening to one and all. The leader whom I have chosen is Karna, one of the greatest archers, one of the greatest warriors in the history of the world itself. He was one of the leaders who challenged fate and destiny. Though challenging fate and destiny would be of no use, but he was, even if the odds were against him, he fought against all the odds and emerged victorious. He was adopted by charioteers. He was raised by charioteers, and later he was deprived of many privileges which he should have been given, because he was born to Surya, the king, the sun king, but he didn't enjoy any of the king privileges, royal privileges which he was supposed to. But anyways, he shunned all those, and he proved many people wrong who criticized him. His own brothers, the Pandavas, criticized him when he died. They were refusing to burn him. I mean, they were refusing him to burn in the funeral pyre because he was a charioteer's son. But he never longed for glory or fame. He just wanted to challenge people and wanted to show people that they were wrong, and was such a person that never lose heart, even if you are on the losing side, but fight bravely and lose. Thank you.
Okay. False caste certificate. False caste certificate. Always in robber's den. Killed a child. Use your view.
Sir, but if I say like that, even I have for Pandavas, Pandavas have done a lot of advances. No, he was a better person than the people whom I have seen. So I have described him as my hero.
A question?
No, you can ask.
That was her question also.
I mean, you must expect this, he fought for Duryodhana.
No, but see, you can, but Pandavas are also
roving
like...
eye for a woman who was being stripped. Had a roving eye for a woman who was being stripped in public.
You are not the only one.
Sir, even his brothers were no less, no sir. See, Pandavas, because of their atrocities, Sir, excuse me. Sir? No, in the sense like, from his childhood itself, he was deprived of many of the... I mean, if I see like that, even Kunti is a heartless mother to leave him abandoned.
Juvenile delinquents in the world have fractured psyches. That's no defense.
So then even even Karna has you fractured, whatever you mean.
Any positive quality in Karna?
Sir, like, you never give up, even if you are like challenging.
His name starts, he was given a name. Dana Surya Karna. That was the cause of his death, because he gave up all what protection he had.
I learned one lesson, not to be charitable like him. Others, people will just shave your head and run away.
Last speaker. Welcome.
Good afternoon once again. Today I would like to speak about Razia Sultana. Well, she is the first and last only woman leader of Sultan and Mughal dynasty. And I may emphasize on this fact that she ruled only for 4 years, in just a matter of 4 years. But then maybe we can say that it is not the quantity but the quality of the leadership that accounts. I might refer to her as Razia Sultan because she never liked anyone else calling her Sultana, because Sultana meant wife of the Sultan. But she always wanted people, she only responded when people called her Razia Sultan. Well, she was from the slave dynasty, but she rose up to that high position, and her father went on to make her the next heir in his will. But then the other Muslim courtiers and the subjects of Iltutmish, they did not want to hand over the empire to a woman because they consider a woman as weak personality. Then they gave the empire to one of his sons, but then she revolted against him and then she took hold of the throne. She always fought for gender equality, and during her reign of just 4 years, she built houses, old age homes, dispensaries, hospitals, and what she did was of immense sacrifice. She wanted to help the poor and the needy, and what she did as a ruler of her kingdom can be justified. Thank you.
Anybody wants to take on this brother killer? She killed her brother?
No, sir.
How did she come to kingdom after her brother was made the king?
Well, she found a mutiny against him, but she did not kill him.
She punished him. It was just after
Yes, because what he did was he just squandered his father's wealth. He used to ride up on he used to ride up on an elephant and just threw money all around. And that too, the guidance of his mother, who was stepmother of Razia Sultana.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Word. It was quite knowledgeable. It was a learning experience for all of us. We'd asked you questions. It's not necessary that we had answers. probably we wouldn't have handled it half as well as many of you did. We were doing our job, we were sitting in the luxury of having to judge. We could act like smart elects, which you all could. I'm sure if you all didn't have a goal more defined than ours, you would have given it back to us and more. Keep doing what you're doing. My only concern is, as I said right in the beginning, I still continue to see a huge dichotomy between what we say and what we do. If we can bridge that gap, I think India is in safe hands yet. I'm only reminded of those famous lines from Pradeep, famous poet laureate of the country. Obviously, he had you all in mind when he said, "Hum laaye hain tufaan se kishti nikal kar, is desh ko apna mere bachon se." Thank you.
Thank you all for this wonderful experience. Yes, we need to keep walking our talk and move ahead. Yes, you're bright, young, lot of energy. So keep energizing yourself with positive, powerful thoughts and move ahead.
I too had a very good experience of your experiences. And I'm very happy seeing the bright future that we would suddenly have after another 15 or 20 years. I am very hopeful and optimistic. Thank you.
Results?
Before we proceed, 1 minute, just. Sit down, just a couple of minutes before the average comes out. There's a chart here. We are going on a special mission. 150th birthday anniversary of Vivekananda. It says, "I shall rebuild India with my character and Swami Vivekananda's message." So whoever wants to fulfill this dream through your personality and through Swami's ideas in your life can come inside here.
In a line.
In a line.
It's a blank transfer.
Normally our energy goes down and we normally cross. But in yogis personality are keep maintaining energy goes down. And one flexes, one chakra gets that only get a something. Anybody else?
Well, I've seen very few hands go up into this place. I've been some place about the marks about the undergraduate doctors and
Friends came from yesterday morning. Why is there nobody came?
Practical lab with records. She's writing the records.
I'm not asking not I'm not asking not please do all that. Those are all add-ons.
Close.
Make up leads. Get your basics straight. Any having topic on this guy after that. Ishwar Aditya. Pratik. Sriram. Subramaniam. Anirudh. Pranav Ram. Abhiraj. Hardev. Siddharth, Ankit Mora, Varsha, Aishwarya, Gayatri, Pranika,
Please.
Namita, better. Audrija, and that's assuming they've got the pronunciation right. Kausura. Amandeep. Ruchika.
All have done well, judges, difficult problem for them. Very tough choice. But anyway, others will make way for somebody. And all of you are invited for the finals. Whenever it is held, we will inform you. And that book which has been given to you is the manual for the finals. Okay? Because you have to have the exact incidents and the points there, given examples and the experiences of Swamiji. That will be one of the prompts there. So please go through here. It's actually 2 volumes. That will be tough for you at the present moment. So it's enough if you go through this one concise edition of Swamiji's life. Okay? So how did you feel today? On stage, off stage? Can one comment then, one word? Not about the questions and answers, the feelings, what you are taking back home. Please come quickly from there itself.
Come on, anyone who?
Start, give the mic to them. And how you felt today's this?
As I've been telling you, it was an amazing experience all along.
Throughout, right from the first day.
I'm very happy and content. I have nothing to regret. What I did was all what I had in my heart, so I'm very happy.
Good. Excellent.
It's the same thing. I just can't stop smiling since I came here. I was tense in the morning, but I don't know, it's contagious that you just keep smiling.
Yeah, come on.
Tense and exhilarating, both at the same time.
It was a good experience, even though we got screwed by the judges a little, but it was still good. We learned a lot.
Yeah, every time we go on stage, your heart keeps beating really fast, so you get like that exhilaration, and it feels good after you're done with your speech and you go to sit. So it was a good experience.
Learn many things as a judge said. I will surely read more and more books. So that's what I learned today, and I will surely aim for better future.
Yeah.
The adrenaline rush which you get every time you walk onto the stage and you have to say some few words. It's exhilarating, at the same time there are all sorts of butterflies in your stomach moving inward, and still it was a very good experience, and I learned a lot from being a person who would be so scared of moving onto the stage and speaking our opinions, from being now to I've evolved into a much better personality, as I have believed that now I can openly express my views. From day one, since I've come here, I've learned more about my own self. That's I think that's a very big achievement to know what you actually are. Even today, I was asked to talk about, I spoke about Ashoka, and then I was like, I Googled it instead of reading a book about it. So I'm discovering a lot more about myself thanks to this place and the aura over here. It's really good. Thank you.
Well, I feel I'm a part of changing myself into someone better day by day, and this has been getting better week by week.
Amazing experience. I love speaking on the mic anyways. I love talking here again. The best thing today was I was waiting for sir's question. Every time just someone finished, the question he asked is amazing. I love it. Thank you, sir.
Come on. Say something.
I don't know if something happened today.
Very good. Something happened.
Which part was starting questions of tennis today?
As the stages progressed, I started feeling more confident when I'm on stage, and now I'm more sure that I can speak well.
Yes.
I really don't have anything new to say. I've always been a huge fan of both the organization and the event, but Yeah, I agree with Akhil and when they say that the question was the best part. I better.
It was a great experience, and the level of confidence is constantly rising.
Apart from the questions, two things. I missed Ramakrishna for the last 45 days or something. And the second thing is, usually the results are announced, so they have to be announced. Usually every time we get tensed, but now I don't know why. There's not tension. There's just a satisfaction with me, within me. So I'm not worrying with the results.
Today's speech, I felt was the best of what I had given in Ramakrishna because I was very frank, I felt, and it was fine in the sense that I never got, I'm not scared of the crowds or something. I felt like dancing and speaking. So that's why every time, instead of keeping the mic stationary, I every time take a mic and hold it and speak. Yeah, pull. You used to pull it? No, actually, it's stuck tight, so I have to pull it.
Well, all I can say is with every level we are getting better, we're becoming better students, better thinkers, better leaders, and better humans.
Well, it was just an amazing experience from day one, and now my confidence levels have gone way above they were before. Yeah, even above the roof. Come on.
Well, today I was not my best, but still it was a very good experience.
I have a small question.
Hardev, Varsha Subramanian, V. Subramanian, Siddharth, Aishwarya, Prateek, Pranita, Abhiraj Sinha, Namita, Pranav,